This is my introduction video for educational leadership. A little bit about me. I'm a father to a seventh grade daughter. We love to travel. We do national parks in the summer times. I grew up in Kansas City, Missouri, and went to Raytown South High School. And after that, I went to Baker University, where I earned a degree in history. I currently teach at Mill Valley High School. I've been in the DeSoto School District for about 22 years. All my time has been in the DeSoto schools. I've taught everything from 7th grade through 12th grade. Currently, I teach freshman world geography and sophomore AP European history. Last thing about me is that my schedule is super busy. I'm the head cross country and track coach. I'm pursuing a degree in instructional technology and taking 9 hours this fall. I'm a father. I'm teaching, and so my spare time is pretty limited. So one of the questions was why do politics influence schools, but not necessarily move political leaders to take action based on politics? From the reading, we saw historically that communities try to control school leaders and force them to join political parties and be a voice for those parties in education. I think currently today, school leaders have to balance politics and external expectations with the needs of their student population. It's very important for them to act on behalf of their student population and not on what's the political agenda or needs. Why did Sanders focus on splitting the work between skills of the profession and the knowledge and wisdom? Part of this comes from the 10th Amendment, where the federal government gives the state the opportunity to regulate education. So we definitely see that communities have set standards for teacher education and community, whether that's at the state level or in the local level for teacher behavior. We also know part of this comes out of the history of the civil rights movements, and then once we get into the 80s and the 90s with students with disabilities, and then currently the LGBTQ movement. And so definitely there's been legislation to regulate how schools treat students. And then last is that we know that courts make decisions that school leaders have to follow. And so all of those things really focus on work and skills, whereas maybe the Department of Education in the state will focus on knowledge and wisdom. And so those two things have been separated pretty effectively over the last 30 or 40 years. Why do the standards now today call for the explicit action of school leaders? We know that school leaders are the voice for a school district, and there's a couple of reasons why it's important for them to be political activists. The first thing is that they have to understand the political landscape. They have to know the expectations, the laws that are necessary for the functioning of their school. But more importantly is that they are the voice for their students and for their community. It's very important for them to be able to share what it is like in their community and the needs of their students. If political leaders are not doing that, if school leaders are not doing that, then they are subjecting their school district to be at the mercy of people who don't understand what their community is like, what their student needs are, maybe people who don't even understand what education looks like today. It has changed so rapidly recently that there are people who just maybe don't understand what it's like to even be in a classroom anymore or to run a school. And so it's very important for school leaders to be advocates for their students, for their families, and that really demands that they have to be a political activist. Why do politics and educational policies make school leaders think strategically about what they're going to do? In today's world, there are so many different stakeholders in a school, and so it's extremely important for school leaders to be able to communicate with all of those people, collaborate, and get everybody on board. If school leaders act upon what they feel and do, they probably miss out on quite a bit of information because they don't go out and gather that from other people. And so they must go out and communicate and talk and understand the needs of their students and their families, and then think about what they're going to do going forward, because they're going to have to balance out against the political landscape of their community or their state. I've had to think about my decision making, critiquing that. Obviously, I don't have a lot of say in what it is that I teach. That's mandated for me. Where I have to be careful in a world geography class is when I'm teaching politics and religion. Those are hot button topics. And so very, very, very careful about those things. That's probably what makes me the most nervous, is I'm afraid I'm going to end up on Fox News sometime. Probably one of the other things too would be school funding. Over time, definitely it's very clear that funding for schools in Kansas has changed significantly. And as teachers, we feel that, and trying to figure out how to continue to operate with changes in funding for schools has been a challenge. What can I do to improve my educational leadership? I think one of the biggest things is to remember that even though politics and religion and whatnot, those are sensitive topics, I also have to demonstrate that people can be tolerant, they can be accepting, they can be understanding, they can listen to other opinions, and it's okay to disagree. And I think that's very important for students to be able to see. And so while I can't teach what it is I necessarily believe and project that upon students, what I can do is to show all sides of issues and to show understanding and tolerance for people who are different, for people who are living in different situations, for their different challenges. And I think that may be probably the most important thing I do as a teacher right now. I think another important thing to do is just to remember that administrators, school leaders have a lot of hats to wear, a lot of roles to fill, and the decisions that they make are not simple at all. And as teachers, we're not privy to all the information that they have when they make a decision, or the expectations laid upon them when they make decisions. And they just don't have the time even to be able to explain those things to us. And so it's very important for us to remember that things are never as simple as a teacher wants them to believe. And obviously, I think the other thing is we have to be creative in providing experiences for our students with the changes in school funding over time. Being creative is really important to be able to provide the best experience and education for our students. The last thing on my reflection is, if you would have asked me this probably any point in time in the time that I've taught, I would tell you that I don't feel like the decisions made at the federal level or the state level really impact what it is that I do in my classroom significantly. I think that this assignment helped me reflect a little bit more on that and understand that over the 22 years that I've been a teacher, a lot has changed in education. And some of that is coming from the federal government and from the state government or a local community, whether it be funding or teacher training or expectations. Like, those things do truly impact what it is that I do in my classroom. Those changes have been gradual over time, and so I guess I haven't felt it in that day-to-day process. I'm lucky in history. I don't have to be tested all the time, and so I'm sure for a science teacher, a math teacher, an English teacher, their lives are a lot different. Elementary school teachers with all the testing, I just don't feel that. And so I think impact of politics is probably different than what other teachers experience. I'm looking forward to a great semester with everybody and getting to meet people. I don't recognize any names in this class, and so it'll be fun to get to meet some new people.